Welcome back, my fellow watchers of the multiverse, to a brand new series coming to you at the channel. Very refreshing, something brand new. What if the early DC heroes became the Justice League? The story takes place in 1992 and showcases some of the early DC heroes coming together to fight a common threat. I ended up doing this with Avengers 2000. It was a series where I took the early Marvel heroes and mashed them all up into one universe and created a story that was very unique. It was a variant universe. All the stuff was very interesting. It actually took me a very long time to come up with the complete roadmap to the early DC heroes becoming the Justice League, because there's so many stories to tell. And I do want to say, if you're new to the channel and you're a DC fan and you're stumbling upon my video, do make sure to subscribe, like, share, as I'm going to be delivering a ton more DC content. I feel like I've kind of shined away from DC, but now I'm really moving forward with DC and a lot of their characters, and going forward, you're gonna see a ton more of the early Justice League and even more content. But thank you so much for requesting this. And that being said, let's get into the highly anticipated DC What If. Hal Jordan had always been fascinated by the power of the Green Lantern ring. As a member of the Yellow Lantern Corps, he had been trained to use the power of fear to control others, but he had always felt that there was something more to the universe. He had spent countless hours studying and analyzing the ring, trying to unlock its secrets. He had heard rumors of powerful artifacts that could create anything the user could imagine, and he knew that he had to find it. But the Green Lantern ring was always protected by the Yellow Lanterns, and it was heavily guarded on the planet Oa. Hal knew that if he wanted to get his hands on the ring, he would have to take it by force. He spent weeks planning his infiltration, studying the guards and their routines, and training himself to be at the peak of his powers. He knew that the mission was dangerous, but the lure of the ring was too strong to ignore. As the day of the heist approached, Hal Jordan's heart was pouring with anticipation. He waited until the cover of darkness and made his move. He slipped past the outer guards with ease, using his fear-based powers to keep them at bay. He moved quickly, taking out the patrols that stood in his way. He could feel the adrenaline pumping through his veins as he got closer and closer to his prize. Finally, he reached the chamber where the Green Lantern ring and lanterns were kept. The room was dark lit, only by a soft green glow illuminating from the lantern. The ring sat on a pedestal in the center of the room, calling out to him with its power. Hal knew that he could not waste any more time. He grabbed the ring and lantern and turned to leave, but he was not alone. The Yellow Lantern Corps had been alerted to his presence, and they were coming for him. Hal Jordan was outnumbered, but he was not afraid. He activated the Green Lantern ring, feeling the power of his will surging through him. He fought back with all of his might, using the ring's power to create weapons and constructs that could take down his opponents. The battle raged on for a while, what felt like hours, but Hal was determined to succeed. He knew that he couldn't let the ring fall back into the hands of the Yellow Lanterns. With one final burst of energy, he knocked out the last of his enemies, and he made his escape. He fled the planet, still feeling the rush of power from the Green Lantern ring coursing through his veins. As he flew through space, Hal couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and wonder. He had finally achieved what he always wanted to, and now he had the power to shape the universe in his own image. But he also knew that with great power came great responsibility, and he would have to use his new abilities wisely. The universe was vast and full of danger, but he was ready to face whatever challenges laid ahead. Hal's journey to Earth was fraught with danger as he hurled through the vast expansion of space. As his mind raced with thoughts of what laid ahead, he had not planned the trip and he had no idea where he was going. He knew that the Yellow Lanterns would be hot on his trail, and he had to keep moving to avoid detection. But his spacecraft was not designed for long-distance travel, and soon ran out of fuel. The ship began to spiral out of control, and Hal knew that he was going to crash. He quickly assessed his options, but there was only one option left. He used the power of the Green Lantern ring to create a projective bubble around him, bracing himself for impact. The ship crashed into the desert with a thunderous roar, sending sand and debris flying across all directions. Hal stumbled out of the wreckage, badly injured, but he was alive. The crash had damaged the ring and the lantern, but they were still intact. He knew that he had to find a way to get to someone who could use them for good. But first, he had to survive. The desert was harsh and unforgiving, with scorching temperatures during the day and frigid temperatures at night. Hal was ill-equipped for survival in the harsh environment, but he was determined to push on. He searched the wreckage of the ship, salvaging what he could to create a makeshift shelter. He rationed what little food and water he had, trying to stretch it out as long as possible. Alan Scott, a man of routine, and his routine had been broken by the sight of the crash. It was unlike anything he had ever seen before. As a railroad engineer, he was used to inspecting the tracks and keeping them in good condition. But this was something entirely different. He knew that he had to investigate. When he arrived at the site, he saw Hal Jordan lying on the ground, badly injured. Alan rushed to his side and tried to assess the extent of his injuries. It was clear that Hal was in bad shape, and he needed immediate medical attention. Without hesitation, Alan took Hal back to his workshop and began to tend to his injuries. It was a difficult process, but Alan was determined to save Hal's life. He worked tirelessly through the night, using all his skills and knowledge to keep Hal alive. As the morning sun rose, Hal began to regain consciousness. He looked up at Alan and weakly handed him the Green Lantern ring and lantern. He knew he didn't have much time left, and he needed to pass on the responsibility of the ring to somebody he trusted. Alan had heard of the Green Lantern Corps and their powerful artifacts that could create anything the user could imagine, but he had never seen one before. He was skeptical at first, but as he held the ring and lantern, he felt a sense of urge. He felt a surge of power that he had never felt before. He knew that he had to use this power for good. But as soon as he put on the Green Lantern ring, a signal was sent back to the Yellow Lantern Corps. They had detected the power of the Green Lantern ring on Earth, and they were determined to retrieve it at any cost. The night sky was filled with the glow of the Yellow Lanterns as they descended on Earth. Chaos erupted in different cities as they searched for the ring that had been stolen from their grasp. The heroes of different cities had to rely on their own strength and abilities to defend their homes. Once Clark Kent had arrived inside the city, he took to the skies and soared above the buildings with ease. His sharp eyes were scanning the streets below, searching for any signs of danger that may be lurking in the shadows. Suddenly, his attention was drawn to a yellow lantern hovering menacingly next to a skyscraper. Without a moment's of hesitation, Clark Kent sprang into action, hurtling towards the lantern in an effort to stop the villain's destructive plans. However, the lantern was ready for him, and he unleashed a powerful yellow beam of energy, which struck Clark Kent with tremendous force. The impact was so great that the Man of Steel was sent hurtling towards the ground, where he crashed with a thud, weakened by the blast. Lying on the ground, struggling to stand up, Superman's mind began to wander back to a time long ago when he first discovered the crystal fortress left behind by his birth father, Jor-El. He vividly remembered the sense of awe he had felt when he had first laid eyes on the fortress, as if it was calling out to him and beckoning him inside. As he made his way through the fortress, Clark Kent had learned the truth about his heritage and the incredible powers that came with it. He had seen his father's face and heard his voice for the first time in years. Jor-El had explained to him the immense responsibility that came with his powers and the duty he had to use them to protect the people of Earth. As Clark Kent laid on the ground, his mind began to drift to the early days as a hero. when he had faced off against the brilliant but diabolical Lex Luthor. The criminal mastermind had a plan to use a powerful nuclear missile to destroy California and create a new coastline for his own benefit. However, Clark Kent had flown into action, stopping the missile just in time and saving countless lives. The memory of the first challenge filled Clark Kent with a sense of pride and determination. He had faced seemingly insurmountable odds and emerged victorious, using his incredible powers and his unwavering commitment to doing what was right to save the day. But as he continued to reflect on his past, his thoughts turned to a much darker time. The battle against General Zod and his fellow Kryptonians, freed from the Phantom Zone by a nuclear explosion caused by Luthor. The Kryptonians had come to Earth, with powers magnified by the yellow sun. They had wreaked havoc on Metropolis, with Clark Kent battling valiantly to stop them. In the end, however, Zod had proven to be too powerful, and he had Clark Kent at his mercy, ready to kill him. It was only through the intervention of Lois Lane, Superman's closest friend, and confident that he had been saved, Lois had used a Kryptonian device to rob Zod, Ursula, and Non of their powers, leaving them helpless and allowing Clark Kent to emerge victorious. As Clark Kent came back to the present, his mind was filled with a sense of gratitude for Lois and the sacrifices she had made to save his life. With renewed strength and determination, he stood up his body once again, filled with the power and energy that made him a hero, and he took to the skies to protect the people of Metropolis once again. As he flew towards the Yellow Lanterns, he knew that he had faced worse foes before, and came out on top with his father's words ringing in his ears and Lois's bravery in his heart. Clark Kent was ready to take on any challenges that came his way. As the moon rose high above Gotham City skylines, the Caped Crusader perched on top of a towering gargoyle statue on the roof of a downtown skyscraper. His piercing eyes scanned the vast expanse of the metropolis below, keeping watch for any signs of trouble. The cool night breeze whipped at his black cape, causing it to flutter dramatically behind him. Bruce had been on patrol for hours, tirelessly soaring the sky alleys, seeding nightclubs and abandoned warehouses that served as the breeding ground for the city's criminal underworld. His instincts were honed to a razor-sharp edge, and he could sense danger lurking around every corner. He knew that the job never really ended. There was always someone out there plotting the next big heist, or evil scheme. Just as he was about to make his way to the next district on his patrol route, a sudden disturbance caught his attention. A group of sinister figures had descended on the city, their glowing yellow lanterns casting an eerie glow across the buildings. The Lantern Corps, notorious group of intergalactic villains, had arrived in Gotham City, and they were causing havoc wherever they were. Without a moment's hesitation, Bruce sprang into action. He swiftly descended from his perch, landing on the pavement below. The familiar sound of his gadgets clicking into place filled the air as he suited up, preparing for the imminent battle. With a flicker of his wrist, a razor-sharp batarang flew through the air, striking one of the yellow lanterns directly in the chest. The battle was fierce and relentless, with Bruce using his expert fighting skills and advanced technology to take down each of the yellow lanterns one by one. But despite his best efforts, the Yellow Lanterns proved to be a formidable opponent, and soon he was outnumbered and overpowered. He fought valiantly, dodging their energy blasts and using every trick in his arsenal to stay alive. As the battle raged on, the streets of Gotham were plunged into a chaotic frenzy, with explosions and flashes of light illuminating the dark cityscape. It seemed as though the Lantern Corps would be victorious, until Bruce summoned every ounce of his strength and unleashed a powerful barrage of attacks, sending the lanterns scattering in all directions. Breath ragged and heart pounding, Bruce collapsed to his knees on the scorched pavement. His eyes swept over the devastation that surrounded him, taking in the wreckage of his latest battle against the forces of evil. He was exhausted, every muscle in his body aching and trembling with the effort of the fight. As he was kneeling, his mind drifted back to the long and painful journey that he had to become the Dark Knight. He recalled the trauma of his parents' brutal murder, which had sparked a burning desire for revenge deep within himself. He remembered the day he discovered the hidden cave beneath his family's estate, stumbling upon the weapons and equipment that had inspired him to take up his alter ego and fight crime in Gotham City. But one particular memory stood out above all others, vivid and raw in his mind. It was the memory of facing off against the Joker, the most dangerous enemy he had ever faced in his life. The Joker, with a mechanical laughter and twisted sense of humor, had stolen a deadly toxin that could have wiped out the entire population of Gotham City. Bruce had teamed up with a feisty reporter named Vicky Val to stop him, but the odds had been stacked against them from the start. In a final showdown, Bruce had confronted the Joker on top of a skyscraper, the wind howling around them as they battled like titans. Their bodies were battered and bloody, with each blow landing like a sledgehammer. But in the end, Bruce had emerged victorious, with a fierce determination that could not be quenched as he fought with every ounce of strength and willpower he possessed, refusing to let the Joker succeed in his diabolical plan. With a grim satisfaction, Bruce watched as the Joker fell to his death, taking the toxin with him. It was a bitter victory, one that had cost him dearly. But it was also a triumph that he would never forget, a moment that proved that he was more than just a man in a cape and cowl. He was the Dark Knight, Gotham's protector, and nothing could ever stop him from fighting for justice and protecting the innocent. Back in the present day, Bruce refused to give up. He drew on his training and his gadgets to take down the Yellow Lanterns, one by one. He knew the responsibility he bore as the Dark Knight, and he refused to let anyone threaten the peace and safety of Gotham City. Barry Allen felt a cold breeze rushing past his face as he raced through the streets of Central City, his muscles working in perfect harmony as he moved at lightning speeds. His eyes darted back and forth, scanning the surroundings for any signs of trouble. He was always on the patrol, ever watchful for any criminal activity that might threaten the safety of his city. Suddenly, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a flash of yellow, and his heart quickened with alarm. Without hesitation, he darted towards the source of the disturbance, his body a blur as he moved faster than the eye could see. As he drew closer, he could see that it was a yellow lantern, destroying a bank in broad daylight. Barry Allen's determination never wavered, and he raced forward to engage the lantern, his fists clenched and ready for action. However, the lantern proved to be more quicker than he had ever anticipated, and the hero's attack was met with a powerful blast of energy that sent him flying back. Pain coursed through his body as he collided with a nearby building, and Barry Allen groaned as he struggled to get to his feet. His head throbbed from the impact, and he felt a surge of frustration, being bested by his opponent. As he tried to shake off the pain, something stirred in the back of his mind. A memory, long buried, began to surface, taking him back to the early days of his hero journey, when he was still learning to control his powers. He saw himself in a young and inexperienced hero, stumbling and falling as he struggled to master his speed. Barry Allen had worked late at the Central City Police Department's crime lab, as he often did. He had been poring over evidence from a recent case, his attention focused on the task at hand, when he suddenly, without warning, a blinding bolt of lightning struck the building. The impact sent Barry flying backwards, his body slamming against a nearby wall with incredible force. His vision swam as his head struck the hard surface, and he was evaporated into a cloud of debris and dust as the building shook and groaned with the force of the impact. When he came to us, he was disoriented and confused, his head pounding with pain. He could feel the blood trickling down the side of his face, and he reached up to touch the source of the injury. His fingers gazed against something hard and unyielding, and realized that he was wearing a bandage. It was only then that he began to piece together what had happened. The lightning had struck the building, causing a massive explosion that had left him injured and shaken. But as he laid there struggling to regain his bearings, he began to notice something strange happening to his body. It started with a tingling sensation in his fingers and toes, a strange energy that seemed to be surging through his body. Then, to his amazement, he began to move faster than he had ever moved before. His reflexes were heightened, his senses sharpened to an almost superhuman level. At first, he was stunned by his newfound abilities, unsure of what to do with them or how to control them. But as the days passed, he began to experiment with his powers, testing his limits and pushing himself to go faster and further than he ever thought possible. He soon realized that he could use his powers to make a difference in the world, to fight crime and protect those who couldn't protect themselves. He donned a suit and took to the streets, becoming a hero known as the Flash. Barry knew that his life would never be the same, that he had been given a gift that came with great responsibility. But as he raced through the city at lightning speeds, he couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and wonder at the endless possibilities that laid before him. The memory was fleeting, but it was enough to remind Barry Allen on how far he had come since the early days. He felt a sense of gratitude for his powers and the people who he had supported him along the way. Diana was in Themyscira, her paradise island, home, training with her fellow Amazons. She had always been one of the strongest and most skilled fighters on the island, thanks to her natural abilities for combat and strategy. But even as she honed her skills, Diana couldn't help but feel a resistance deep within her. She longed to use her abilities to make a difference in the world beyond Themyscira. This desire only intensified when a fateful visit from an American pilot named Steve Trevor changed her life forever. Trevor had crash landed on Themyscira, and Diana was tasked with escorting him back to the world of the human, and escorting him back to the world of men. It was the first time she had ever left the island, and she felt a sense of excitement as she donned a suit of armor and set out on her journey. In the outside world, Diana discovered that there was a great deal of darkness and danger lurking just beneath the surface. She fought against villains like Ares, the god of war, and Cheetah, a powerful enemy with ties to her Amazonian past. She also encountered other superheroes like Clark Kent and Bruce, and formed deep connections with them. But even as Diana fought to make the world a better place, she struggled with her own sense of identity. She was torn between her loyalty to the Amazon and her duty to the wider world. She grappled with questions of morality and justice, trying to find a balance between her Amazonian values and the realities of the world around her. These questions were brought to the forefront when Diana received news of an invasion of Themyscira by the Yellow Lanterns. She quickly donned her armor and prepared for battle, taking to the skies to defend her home. Memories of the Amazonian trainings flooded her mind as she fought off the invaders, and she drew upon all of her experience to fight with ferocity and determination. But even as she fought, doubts crept into her mind. Was she truly making a positive difference in the world? Was her loyalty to the Amazons clouded by her judgment? These doubts only strengthened Diana's resolve. She knew that the world was a complex and messy place, but that didn't mean she gave up on her mission. She would continue to fight for justice, to protect the innocent, and work towards a better world, no matter what challenges she faced. Part 2. The First Assembly. The skies of Metropolis were filled with the sounds of destruction as Clark Kent flew over the city, scanning the chaos below for any signs of the Yellow Lanterns. He quickly spotted a group of them causing mayhem in the city and flew down to confront them. As he approached, he used his heat vision to blast them, but to his surprise, they seemed to be unfazed. The Yellow Lanterns constructs and glowed with their unworldly energy, and they continued their rampage without hesitation. Realizing that his unusual approach wouldn't work, Clark Kent knew that he had to focus on protecting the citizens of Metropolis. While he thought of a plan to take down the Yellow Lanterns, he flew around the city using his super speed to rescue people trapped in burning buildings and damaged vehicles. As he worked to protect the innocent, he kept a watchful eye on the Yellow Lanterns and analyzed their movements, looking for any weaknesses he could exploit. Meanwhile, in Gotham City, Bruce had tracked down a group of other Yellow Lanterns who were attacking the police station. He used his gadgets and fighting skills to take down the attackers, but as soon as he realized that his weapons were no match for the constructs of the Yellow Lanterns, as he dodged their attacks, he racked his brain for a solution. Knowing that he couldn't let the citizens of Gotham down, Bruce decided to get creative. He used his knowledge of science and technology to try and disrupt the Yellow Lantern constructs, experimenting with different materials and frequencies, until he found something that worked. He built a device that would emit a frequency that disturbed the constructs, giving him an opening to strike. Diana charged into battle on Themyscira, where the Yellow Lanterns had already destroyed several buildings. She felt her anger rise as the sight of the devastation and brandshed, her lasso of truth ready to take down the Yellow Lanterns one by one. As she fought, she realized that she was vastly outnumbered. With a heavy heart, she looked around for backup, but she knew that she was the only one who could stop the attackers. Determined to protect her home and her people, Diana fought with all of her might. She used her strength and speed to dodge their attacks and her lasso to ensure them. As she fought, she realized that the Yellow Lanterns were fueled by fear, and she used her powers of inspiration and truth to counter their fear with hope and courage. Her unyielding spirit inspired the Amazons, and together they were able to drive the Yellow Lanterns from their shores. Barry Allen was racing through Central City, trying to keep up with the Yellow Lanterns as they darted across buildings through alleyways. He used his super speed to create a vortex, trying to trap the attackers. As he ran, he realized he was burning through his energy quickly, and he knew that he couldn't keep up much longer. Thinking quickly, Barry Allen decided to use his speed to create a distraction, creating illusions on himself, and using his powers to make it appear as though there were multiple flashes. The Yellow Lanterns were confused and disoriented, and Barry Allen was able to strike. Despite their best efforts, the Yellow Lanterns continued to lay waste to everything in their path. The heroes were growing tired, and their morale was waning. As the destruction seemed to never end, the Yellow Lanterns appeared to be targeting something specifically, but they couldn't quite figure out what it was. As they each followed the trail of destruction, they found themselves converging on California at Allen's workshop. As the heroes approached the workshop, the scene before them was one of devastation and chaos. The destruction left in the wake of the Yellow Lanterns was absolute, with buildings reduced to rubble and debris scattered everywhere. The journey to the workshop was a treacherous one, as they had to navigate through the wreckage and avoid the debris raining down from above. Despite the destruction, the workshop itself stood firm, a testament to its sturdy construction. It was a large warehouse with a metal roof and a sliding door that was half open, revealing a glimpse of the chaos inside. The interior was cluttered with rows of workbenches, covered in tools and machines, and a faint glow emitted from a large device at the back of the room. As the heroes drew closer, they were surprised to see each other there. The initial shock quickly turned to suspicion. However, as they tried to discern each other's intentions, they had never met before, and they had their own methods of dealing with threats like this. Clark Kent, with his nice senses and powerful voice, was the first to speak. "Who are you people, and why are you here?" His words echoed through the air, rising above the din of construction. Bruce, always wary and ready for a fight, narrowed his eyes and reached for a batarang. "I could ask you the same thing. What is your deal?" He was clearly not one to trust easily, especially when it came to strangers showing up at midst of a crisis. Diana, confident and level-headed, stepped forward with her lasso of truth at the ready. "Let's not fight each other. We're all here for the same reason, to stop the Yellow Lanterns." She knew that their combined strength and skills would be needed to defeat the powerful and menacing Yellow Lanterns. Barry Allen, who had been watching the exchange with a mix of confusion and amusement, spoke up. "Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't exactly plan on running into a group of superheroes today." His nonchalant attitude was contrast to the others, but it belied his impressive speed and agility. As they spoke, the Yellow Lanterns continued their relentless march towards the workshop, their power radiating through the air. The heroes could feel their fear and apprehensive growing, as they knew they were in for a tough fight. The fate of California and perhaps the world rested on their shoulders. And that is going to be it for the first part of what if the early DC superheroes became the Justice League. It's a very interesting take on my own DC universe by taking early DC characters and mashing them into one entire universe. If you are new around here and you would like to see more, I would highly request you to subscribe and turn those notifications on so you and your friends are all up to date with the latest content. I do want to say this is probably one of the most fun videos that I've ever had doing. I think it's going to be great. Seeing all the heroes come together, it's a very interesting thing. But that being said, do make sure to subscribe, like, share, and turn those notifications on so you and your friends are all up to date with the latest content. But anyways, as always guys, thank you for tuning in and have a wonderful day. Peace out. The heroes learned about the danger that the Yellow Lanterns posed to the world, and they were determined to protect it at all costs. Alan was eager to learn how to use the ring and lantern, and Jordan was the perfect teacher for him. The two of them spent hours going over the basics of the ring, the constructs, and how to harness the power of the lantern. Outside, the sky was darkening as the Yellow Lanterns began to gather. The heroes who had been inside the workshop quickly made their way to a large window and peered outside. The sight was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The Yellow Lanterns' ships were descending from the skies, their engines blazing with bright yellow as they made their way towards the workshop. As they got closer, the heroes could see the gleaming yellow armor of the Yellow Lanterns, and they knew that they were in for a fight of their lives. As the ship touched down, the ground shook with the force of their impact. The Yellow Lanterns emerged from their ships, weapons at the ready, and advanced towards the workshop. The heroes quickly took up defensive positions, ready to protect the workshop at all costs. The air crackled with energy as the two sides faced each other, and for a moment, all was still, as if the universe went silent. This was going to be one of the greatest team-ups in history. Then with a roar, the battle began. The clash of metal on metal rang out across the yard as the heroes fought with all of their might against the formidable Yellow Lanterns. Despite their best efforts, the heroes were being pushed back, and it seemed as though the lanterns would soon breach the workshop's defenses. But the heroes were determined, and they fought on with their eyes fixed firmly on the goal of protecting the workshop, and Alan as he underwent training. Inside the workshop, the training was just as intense and hard as the battle outside. Jordan pushed Alan to his limits, teaching him how to use the ring and lantern to the fullest potential. Alan struggled at first, but with Jordan's guidance, he began to understand how to wield the power of the ring. On the planet Oa, the news of the heroes' plan to protect the workshop spread like wildfire. The other Yellow Lanterns, who had not been present for the initial attack, gathered to the main hall, their yellow rings glittering ominously in the bright light of the central power battery. They knew that time was of the essence, and that they had to act quickly if they were going to stop the heroes from succeeding. The leaders of the Yellow Lanterns quickly convened in a meeting, and the other Lantern Corps on Earth were notified of the situation. The air in the room crackled with tension as plans were made and strategies were discussed. Outside, the sky darkened as the various lanterns prepared to launch a full-scale attack on Earth and retrieve the ring and the lantern. The Yellow Lanterns were fierce and relentless, and their determination to stop the heroes were plausible. As they gathered their forces and readied their weapons, the tension in the room reached a fever pitch, and the air was thick with anticipation. As the battle raged on, the heroes grew tired and exhausted. The Yellow Lanterns seemed to be too many, and more ships were landing. The heroes knew that they were in trouble, but they refused to give up. As the Yellow Lanterns continued to swarm the skies above the workshop, the heroes were locked in a fierce battle to defend it. Superman's laser vision lit up the sky, cutting through the air with a fierce hum. Bruce's gadgets were being put to the test as he threw batarangs left and right, never missing a beat. Wonder Woman's lasso sprung around her, taking down the Yellow Lanterns with precision, while Barry Allen darted around the battlefield, delivering lightning-fast punches. But as the fight raged on, the Yellow Lanterns seemed to keep up. Their ships descended from the sky, hovering over the workshop like vultures, waiting to strike. The heroes knew they were outnumbered, but they were determined to not give up. The fate of the universe hung in the balance, and they would not let it fall into the wrong hands. Alan stood in the workshop, sweat bedding on his forehead, as he struggled to keep up with the intense training. He had been in the thick of the battle outside, fighting for his life against the Yellow Lanterns, and now he was facing a new challenge, mastering the power of the ring. The weight of the ring felt heavy on his finger, and he was having trouble controlling its power. He tried to focus to tap into the ring's energy and channel it towards the constructs he was trying to create. But every time he tried the constructs, it fell apart, their energy dissipating before they could even take shape. It was frustrating, and Alan could feel his energy waning with every failed attempt. Just when he was about to give up, he heard a voice in his mind. "You can do this, Alan. I believe in you." Jordan's voice rang out as clear as if he was standing right beside him. Alan took a deep breath, steadying himself as he remembered Jordan's words. Alan stood in the middle of the workshop, surrounded by the variety of different gadgets and inventions. His eyes were closed and his hands were clenched into his fists as he concentrated on mastering the power of the ring. He could feel the energy flowing through him, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. His brow fluttered with effort and beads of sweat formed on his forehead, but he refused to give up. As he focused his willpower on the ring, the room began to fill with a brilliant green light. It started as a faint glow, barely visible in the shadows, but it grew stronger and brighter with every passing moment. The light seemed to be emanating from the ring itself, its powers pulsing outwards in waves. Alan felt the energy coursing through his veins, and he knew that he was close to achieving his goal. With renewed determination, Alan focused his mind on the ring, visualizing the constructs, and he wanted to create. This time, he felt a surge of energy flow from the ring into his body, and the constructs began, but they were rough and crude at first, but with every passing moment, Alan's control grew stronger. His constructs began more precise and more powerful, and the intricate, as he gained a better understanding of the ring's capabilities. With a sudden burst of light, Alan emerged from the workshop, his body fully transformed into that of a Green Lantern. His new uniform glowed brightly, its emerald hues shining in the light of the sun. He looked around at his friends, who were all exhausted and bruised from the intense battle. They stared at him in amusement, their willpower to continue fighting restored by his appearance. As the heroes regrouped and gathered their strength, they launched a fierce counterattack against the Yellow Lanterns. Clark Kent flew high above the battlefield, his eyes glowing red with power as he unleashed his laser vision. The beams were stronger than ever before, slicing through the Yellow Lantern ships like a hot knife through butter. The ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light, raining debris down onto the battlefield below. Bruce was on the ground, moving stealthily through the chaos as he attacked the Yellow Lanterns with all of his best skills. He used his batarangs and grappling hook to great effect, taking down enemies left and right. He moved quickly, never staying in one place for too long, always aware of the danger surrounding him. Meanwhile, Diana was in the thick of the battle, her lasso glowing with a fierce, almost blinding light. She twirled it around her head, using to ensnare her enemies and bringing them to the ground. Her strength was unparalleled, and she fought with ferocity that left the Yellow Lanterns reeling. Barry Allen was a blur of motion, darting in and out of the Yellow Lantern's ranks with incredible speeds. He was almost too fast for his enemies to handle, appearing out of nowhere and disappearing just as quickly. The Yellow Lanterns were unable to keep up with him, and he used this to his advantage, striking swiftly without warning. Together, the heroes fought with renewed energy, their determination unshakable, as they pushed back against the Yellow Lanterns with all of their might. As the heroes fought fiercely against the Yellow Lanterns, Green Lantern stood amidst the chaos, his ring glowing with a brilliant emerald light. He had finally mastered the power of the ring, and he felt invigorated, ready to join the fight with renewed energy. With a fierce cry, Green Lantern lifted his ring high, summoning a massive construct of pure energy. It took the shape of a giant hammer, its edges cracking with power, as he swung it at the nearest Yellow Lantern ship. The ship was obliterated in a burst of light, its remains falling to the ground in a shower of debris. Green Lantern moved quickly, darting throughout the battlefield with increased speed. He used his ring to create shields and weapons, striking out his enemies with ferocity that left them reeling. His constructs were precise and powerful, cutting through the Yellow Lanterns with ease. The battlefield was chaotic as the Yellow Lanterns swarmed the heroes, each engaged in their own intense struggle. Superman's muscles bulged as he strained against his opponent, their eyes locked in an intense, fierce state. The Yellow Lantern's energy crackled around them, and Clark Kent gritted his teeth as he tried to match their immense power. Bruce was a blur of movement, his constructs flashing into existence, only to be destroyed moments later. He moved with a fluid grace, his mind racing as he struggled to stay one step ahead of the relentless attacks. Wonder Woman's lasso glowed with an otherworldly light, its power at its maximum. She swung it with deadly accuracy, wrapping it around her enemies and hurling them across the battlefield. But the Yellow Lanterns were tireless and they kept coming, their faces twisted with malice. The Flash was a blur, his movements too fast for the naked eye to see. He darted in and out of the fray, delivering quick strikes that left the Yellow Lanterns dazed and confused. But they were quick learners, and they soon began to anticipate his next move, trying to catch him with their energy blasts. Green Lantern moved with incredible speed, his ring flashing as he created shields and weapons with a flick of his wrist. His constructs were a thing of beauty, each one perfectly formed with incredible power. He struck out at his enemies with ferocity that left them reeling, his energy beams cutting through the Yellow Lanterns like a hot knife through butter. As the battle raged on, the heroes fought with everything they had, their minds and bodies pushed to the absolute as they struggled to gain the upper hand. Meanwhile, Jordan faced off against Sinestro, the most powerful leader of the Yellow Lanterns. Jordan's body was covered in bruises and cuts. His breathing raged as he faced off against Sinestro, the most powerful of the Yellow Lanterns. Sinestro's eyes glowed with a sticky yellow light as he regarded Jordan, his power cracking around him like an energy storm. Jordan gritted his teeth, trying to stay focused, all of his willpower, but he was already weakened from the previous battle. He knew that he was outmatched, but he refused to give up. With a roar, Sinestro launched himself at Jordan, his energy blast slamming into the hero's chest with bone-crushing force. Jordan's body ached through the air, his limbs falling as he crashed to the ground. Sinestro advanced on him, his powers growing stronger with each passing moment. Jordan knew he was done, but then something unexpected happened. The yellow ring flew through the air, landing in Bruce's outstretched hand with a satisfying cling. Bruce slipped on the ring, feeling its power coursing through him. He could feel the darkness of the ring trying to take hold of him, but he launched himself at if need be. The two through the air, giving Sinestro a taste of his own medicine. The battle was intense, and neither was giving an inch as they struggled for supremacy. The air was heavy with tension as Bruce and Sinestro engaged in a fierce battle, each determined to come out on top. Their power crackled through the air, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. Bruce's constructs were precise and powerful, each one hitting its mark with deadly accuracy. Sinestro fought back with ferocity that bordered on madness, his energy blasting, tearing through the air like deadly bolts of lightning. But then with a mighty cry, Bruce summoned all of his strength and created a massive construct. The construct towered over Sinestro, its jaws gaping wide. With a savage roar, the construct lunged forward, tearing Sinestro apart with ease. The Yellow Lanterns were left without direction, their powerful leader defeated. With a hiss of frustration, they quickly retreated battlefield and quickly towards their ships, flying back to Oa. The heroes stood in a loose circle, their face itched with exhaustion and relief. They knew that the battle was far from over, and that there would always be more threats to face in the future. But for now, they basked in the warmthness of their victory, congratulating each other on a job well done. As they began to make their way back to their base, they knew that they could rest easy, at least for a little while. But they also knew that they had to remain vigilant, always ready for the next threat, as they would inevitably come their way. As the heroes stood on the battlefield surveying the aftermath of their victory, they suddenly set upon by a group of zombie-like creatures, each one of them dressed in the armor of the Blackest Knights, and they moved with a slow, relentless determination towards the heroes. Clark Kent, Diana, Green Lantern, and Barry Allen all sprang into action. their powers blazing as they met the zombies head-on. The creatures were strong, and their blows landed with a sickening thud, but the heroes fought back with everything they had. Clark Kent lifted the zombies into the air and slammed them down with bone-shattering force. Diana lashed out with her lasso, cutting through the zombies with ease. Green Lantern created shields and weapons to strike out at his enemies. And Barry Allen moved so fast that the zombies couldn't even see them. But even though the heroes fought back, they knew that they were up against a formidable enemy. The zombies were relentless. Their numbers seemed to be growing by the second. The heroes were being pushed back, their strength weakening as the zombies closed in. It was then that Bruce, who had been studying the Yellow Lantern ring, realized what was happening. The zombies were after the ring, and they would stop at nothing to obtain it. As he called out a warning to his teammates, the zombies drew closer, their eyes glowing with an unholy light. And that's going to be the first part of what if the early Justice League had formed in 1990s. Everybody's always asked me to do what if the early DC heroes became the Justice League, and I finally delivered the first part. This is part 1 out of 4, so there's going to be 3 other parts after this one. I would highly recommend, if you're new to the channel and you're stumbling upon this video and you like to see this type of content, do make sure to subscribe, like, share, and turn those notifications on so that you and your friends are all up to date with the latest content. That being said, I do have a Patreon. It's starting at just $1 a month. It really goes a long way because I can get different programs, different editing softwares. It really goes a long way to helping the channel grow further and becoming something even greater. Right now, I'm doing something where you can request your fan fictions and you can skip the line and I will actually make a video about it. It's a tier, it's in the link in the description down below, but I would highly recommend you taking a look at it. But thank you so much for following the storyline and everything that happened. I hope you enjoyed part 1 of 4. That being said, thank you so much and have a fantastic day. Peace out.